Good afternoon, Pittsburgh Steelers fans. Thanks for tuning into Pittsburgh Legacy. In the last video, I broke down each position on the offense and provided updates on players and the development and training camp. Now, in today's video, I'm going to be doing the exact same thing, but on the defensive side of the ball. I'm going to be giving updates on the progression of players on the defense, and at the end, I'm also going to share with you which position group I think has improved the most and which player has grown the most throughout the 2024 Steelers training camp. So sit back and relax. This is going to be a bit of a long one. All right, so I'm going to start with the safety position first, and obviously we have Minkah Fitzpatrick, and he's a two-time All-Pro, multiple-time Pro Bowler. He's known for his incredible playmaking ability and won us many games with his fantastic coverage skills, forcing interceptions, pass breakups, pass deflections. He has saved the Steelers from less than desirable situations tons and tons of times. There's a lot of buzz going around, especially outside of Pittsburgh, claiming that he's been on the decline lately, especially because stat decreases and overall production. Well, here's the thing. Remember, he only played in 10 games last year, and he was battling through injuries. And not only this, but he recorded 64 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 3 pass deflections, no interceptions. However, like I said, this was him battling through injuries all year, playing out of position due to the many losses in our secondary. Namely, the linebacker position, where we had to start bringing in a lot of practice squad players to fill into that position. And not only this, but the other side of the secondary is the corner group, and they were getting banged up, especially late in the season. Look, you don't want your safety to have 100+ tackles, 130 tackles, and especially not like 80+ tackles over the course of 10 games. That means somewhere in your secondary that assignments are getting blown or they're getting lost, and the safety is going to have to come in and make up for that. This is also just further demonstrated by disparity in the production that we normally see from Minkah. That's not normal of him. The national media kind of just shoves that all aside and says, hey, look, he's getting worse. Look at these stats. He's getting worse. And I'm sure everyone has seen that clip of A.J. Brown catching the ball right over him in the end zone. This was at the Eagles game. If you go back and watch that, I was watching this very closely. Watch that play in its entirety. You will see that Minkah was left all alone on an island because of a blown assignment somewhere in the secondary. He's trying to save us from a touchdown, and where he should have had additional protection from a DB. Minkah is once again shown that he's being forced to play out of position on the fly. That being said, this year, the Steelers are looking to get him back to his natural free safety position, where he can truly shine and be the ball hawk that he is. And he's been receiving coaching lately now from Steelers legend, Defensive Player of the Year, Hall of Famer Troy Polamalu, which is only going to further enhance his mental prowess in the game. Next up is DeShon Elliott, and he's one of the newest additions to our safety group. He was drafted by the Baltimore Ravens and most recently was with the Dolphins this past year. He's bringing a lot of knowledge of elite secondary play, and he's versatile enough to actually both play strong and free safety, making him a perfect person to be putting back there in the backfield. Now, Steelers have been longing for a strong safety that can complement Minkah's skills since the loss of Terrell Edmunds to the Eagles, and they're going to be counting on him to be a long-term starter. He definitely has the ability to be the answer we've been waiting for. Now, last year, he recorded 1 interception, 7 pass deflection, 82 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, and a fumble recovery. Now, we can't forget about DeMonte KZ, who is going to be giving DeShon Elliott some competition, even if Elliott is the anticipated starter for Week 1. KZ's coming off a pretty decent production-wise season in 2023 with 61 tackles, 2 interceptions, 2 fumble recoveries. Now in training camp, KZ's been working hard. He's been showing very great form. What was lacking though from him was his consistency in man coverage and poor tackling. Now, while the arrival of Elliott might push KZ into a reserve role, his ability to step in and contribute in sub-packages is still going to be absolutely invaluable. Next up, there is the special teams ace, and although he does play safety from time to time, especially further down the depth chart, there's Miles Killebrew. And I'm excited to see him back in action again. I hope to see him block more field goals, punts. Last year, I know he blocked one that ended up in resulting in his safety. Like, those types of things change games. I think the stat is if you block a punt or a kick, you have a 90% chance of winning the game. So when he just goes out there and does that multiple times a year, he's like showing that he's going to win us the game 90% of the time. That is insane. I think every time he has done it, we've won the game. Especially, I remember back a few years ago in the Bills game, we were struggling against Josh Allen, and Big Ben couldn't quite get the offense moving. He comes in, I think it was either him or was it Marcus Gilbert blocked the punt. We ended up winning that game. Miles Killebrew is a phenomenal athlete and one of the greatest special teams players that I've ever seen from a defensive standpoint. He's going to be another key player to watch. He's an All-Pro and Pro Bowler just last season for his exceptional special teams performances. He tied the NFL for 2 blocked kicks and had 13 special teams tackles. I might be mistaken. I'm pretty sure it was 2 kicks he blocked there. During training camp, he's been standing out once again, proving he's ready to continue being a difference maker. He and Danny Smith are going to be cooking this season with the new kickoff rules. You already know that. Now, lastly, we have the 6th round pick, Brian Watts. He's currently making the transition from corner to safety, but if there are a lot of injuries at the corner position, don't be too surprised if you see him taking snaps there as well. We might even see him playing in that role in the preseason. He's coming in at 6'3", 212 pounds. His size and athleticism, that's about perfect for the safety position. In camp, he's been primarily working on special teams, but he has shown a lot of promise in defensive drills as well. He'll likely see more action in special teams while he continues to develop his role in the defensive backfield. Next up, we have the cornerback group, and of course, we have Joey Porter Jr., who had one of the most incredible rookie seasons in Steelers history, easily. The Steelers have very high hopes for him, and he's now entering his second season. He consistently showed flashes of becoming a true lockdown corner last year. This year, he's aiming to look to elevate his game even further. After all, when you claim to be, I think, what was it? He claimed to be the best corner in the nation, or did he call himself like top 5? It was something like that. Like, you got to be able to back that up. His size and skill set, he's going to be looking for Pro Bowl honors this year. Look, last year he got absolutely snubbed. I think some of the guys who got in over him shouldn't have got in. If we're being entirely honest, I think this year he's looking for All-Pro potential as well. Some of the plays he made last year weren't just some like good rookie plays. Those were like some top 5 elite shutdown corner type of plays that the Steelers are really going to need more of, especially this year with the impressive lineup of quarterbacks and receivers that the Steelers are going to be facing. He's going to have to contend passes from the likes of Joe Burrow, Mahomes. I know the Chargers are on the schedule, Justin Herbert, Kirk Cousins, Week 1, Aaron Rodgers, Dak Prescott. And I get it. Dak, he stinks in the playoffs. He doesn't suck in the regular season. He's still a very good quarterback there. I know he loses that step there in the playoffs, and I get it, but his regular season performances, no joke. Let's see, going back to Joey Porter, the knocks on him before the draft were about his speed primarily and his handsiness, and I know we got a couple of pass interference calls, some holding calls last year through him. But look, that speed really wasn't a concern since his technique was so fundamentally strong last year. Next up, we have Dante Jackson, and he's one of the new acquisitions the Steelers have via the Carolina Panthers in a trade in exchange for Deontay Johnson. And look, initially that trade made me pretty darn angry. And even today, we're still kind of scratching our heads saying, I don't know who's going to fill in at wide receiver 2. Look, I mean, Van Jefferson's been having a pretty good showing out there, but it's still kind of wide open. And whoever it is that's going to be filling at wide receiver 2, you hope that they can make at least as much of an impact as Deontay Johnson. He had amazing route running ability, and that's something that you just don't see. There's a reason that Deontay Johnson was our wide receiver 1 for many years with Ben Roethlisberger. It's worth noting now, though, that there's some early reports coming in from Carolina that Deontay Johnson hasn't been looking that great. You might have even seen the clips on Instagram or Twitter of Deontay Johnson dropping balls in the end zone. So, there's that too. Dante Jackson, on the other hand, is known for his speed and his playmaking ability, and he's looking to make a fresh start in Pittsburgh. In training camp, he's already making a strong impression. Mike Tomlin, he loves this guy. Lately, as I've seen it myself, I can kind of see why. Coming off a season in which he tore his Achilles, he really doesn't look like he has any physical limitations whatsoever, and he's playing at the same level that he was prior to 2023, which was very strong. Let's see. You know what? I actually saw him live in training camp, and I actually looked up his number. I'm sitting there thinking, who is this guy? I mean, like, I like to look up their numbers if I don't know who they are. He was just routinely making good pass breakups. And look, I'm going to make sure you know who number 26 is too. Watch out for number 26. Pittsburgh may have won that trade with Carolina if Deontay Johnson really doesn't pan out there. The next corner I want to talk about is Corey Trice Jr., who's a 7th-round pick from last year. He's another player that I'm going to be keeping my eyes on. He had a very promising start in training camp last year before his knee injury sidelined him. And I actually attended that training camp practice last year in which he did get injured. It was a play where he was making a pass breakup. He jumps up, comes down awkwardly, and ends up tearing his ACL. This year, he's back and competing for a significant role, especially in the outside. However, he doesn't seem to quite have the same athleticism as before, but this could be due to some lingering effects of the ACL surgery, which does have a recovery time lasting over a year. I'm still hoping he gets back to form, though, and he shows us all in the preseason that he still means business. Next up, we have Darius Rush. He joined the Steelers last season and made a number of notable plays last year, especially as our key starters in the secondary were getting injured. He's one of those versatile corners who can play actually both in the slot and on the outside. He's been putting a lot of work in the offseason to improve his game, and I anticipate seeing him being used a lot in dime packages, especially late in the game where 6 DBs are increasingly necessary. He has some very impressive instincts, and I look forward to seeing those instincts on display again in the preseason and, of course, in the regular season as well. Another guy I'm really liking lately, Beanie Bishop Jr. He's an undrafted rookie who's been generating a lot of buzz in training camp. Honestly, I completely underestimated him at first, and I'll admit that I didn't expect him to show out as well as he has. Of course, there's still the matter of seeing him taking game reps, seeing him in the preseason and, of course, the regular season, but even with his smaller size, his quickness and coverage skills are drawing a lot of comparisons to people like Mike Hilton. He's coming out of the University of Minnesota after transferring from WVU, and he was an absolute game changer there with 24 pass breakups. Was that one season? He was an All-American. 24 in one season? I keep hearing reports about his underdog mentality that keeps pushing him to be the best version of him at any given moment. Another quick update as I read through the initial depth chart for Friday's game that Beanie Bishop will be the starting nickelback for the Steelers, so I'm going to be excited to see him in game, and hopefully he continues to prove me wrong. And look, honestly, he could be the next Jaylen Warren, where he just comes in as an undrafted rookie and completely stuns everyone with his ability and leaves no room for doubt that he should be a starter in the slot. He's making some big-time plays with several pass breakups, and you might have even seen the interception early in camp against Justin Fields that would have resulted in a touchdown in a real game setting. Terrell Austin has even praised Beanie Bishop's speed, also his toughness and competitiveness, which are all things that we're going to be looking for as we get closer to the preseason game against the Houston Texans on Friday. Lastly, don't forget that we did re-sign Cameron Sutton, who is returning to the Steelers after a stint with the Lions. I expect him to be a significant upgrade in the slot and on the outside. However, he is facing an 8-game suspension to start the season, so the Steelers will need to find at least a temporary solution in his stead. Omar Khan seems to have a lot of trust in Sutton, but you have to wonder how much utility he might get late in the season, especially with Mike Tomlin's saying that your best ability is your availability. But with all those legal issues that were brought up surrounding him, I just hope that the worst is over, and I would expect that it is. I can't comment on the validity of all that went down, but I fully trust that the Steelers have everything under control. The last few updates on cornerbacks come toward the bottom end of the depth chart with Anthony Averett and Thomas Graham Jr. I know that Averett brings experience from his time with the Ravens, while Graham, though relatively inexperienced, has showed some promise in camp. But he'll have to start really showing some improvement in the preseason game, since he will be up against some fierce competition with a cornerback room where everyone's vying for a limited number of spots. That being said, I still wish them all the best of luck. Now, the next group I want to talk about is one of the most impressive and most anticipated groups on the defense this year, the inside linebacker group. First up, we have Patrick Queen, who signed with the Steelers after leaving the Ravens, and he's coming in on a 3-year deal, $41 million. By the way, that's the largest defensive free agent signing in Steelers history. Last season, Queen showcased his talent with he had 133 tackles, 3.5 sacks, 9 tackle for loss, 6 pass deflections, 1 interception, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery. The list just keeps going on and on and on. This dude just does everything. I am very excited to see him on the gridiron, tearing it up. I'm going to be watching him. Actually, you know what? I remember watching him on the Ravens, and as he was playing against the Steelers, I would just think to myself, dang, I wish this dude was on the Steelers. So when I heard the news that he was going to actually sign to the Steelers, I was like out of my mind. That was insane. I already knew that Queen meant business and was going to elevate an already strong linebacker core to another level. He's a gritty player with some insane intelligence and coverage that just fits the Steelers defense so well. He's going to be a wrecking ball on game day, and he's already been causing a bit of a stir, in training camp with some of the conflicts he's been getting into with Najee Harris and Jalen Warren on the backs and backers drills. Look, I love seeing that type of stuff. He's just bringing that highly competitive mentality to the defense, and he's trying to bring the best out of his teammates on both sides of the ball. Throughout training camp, he's been showing everyone that he is that guy on the field. He continues to impress in every drill so far, and I can't express how excited I am to have him on the Steelers. Next in the linebacker groups is Elandon Roberts, and Roberts joined the Steelers last season and quickly made his presence known with 101 tackles, 2.5 sacks, and 2 pass deflections. We all got to see last year that he has a hard-hitting style and brings a tremendous amount of leadership. He's poised to start this season, bringing toughness, experience, and to this linebacker core that only goes stronger by the day. I can tell you right now, Roberts playing alongside Patrick Queen is going to be a problem for every offensive line unit in the league. No questions. The next linebacker I want to discuss is none other than rookie Peyton Wilson, who's a 3rd-round draft pick, and for many, including myself, think he could be the steal of the entire draft. I know there are concerns about his previous knee injury, but seriously, just look at his college stats. He had 138 tackles, 17.5 tackles for loss, 6 sacks, 3 interceptions, 1 touchdown, 6 pass deflections, 1 forced fumble, 2 fumble recoveries. And that was just last year at North Carolina State. That is insane for a 3rd-round draft pick. Make no mistake, every team that's passed on him is going to be kicking themselves because they missed out on such great potential. Now, he likely won't be starting this year too much due to the crazy amount of talent that's ahead of him in the inside linebacker position, of course, barring injuries, but he could establish himself as a force to be reckoned with well before his rookie contract expires, and he'll definitely be seeing the field in various rotations and special packages. There's no way the Steelers are going to be missing out on the talent that he can bring to the table. He and Patrick Queen are 2 of the linebackers that I'm excited for the most to watch in the preseason, and I'm definitely going to be watching them closely in the upcoming game against the Texans. Let me think. I know Patrick Queen won't be playing in this game against the Texans, but Peyton Wilson will be. And, did you know what? By the way, he's been the first player on the field at every practice so far in camp. This dude has some serious dedication. He stated that he has a warm-up routine that he won't compromise on. So he's making sure that he's out there ready to go every day. The next linebacker I want to discuss is the 2022 7th-round pick, Mark Robinson, who's entering his 3rd season now. And in my opinion, he needs to step up. I know he has that special teams role mainly, but he hasn't really been making too many headlines this year during camp. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see in the regular season if his body of work will grant him a contract extension before he heads into the final year of his rookie contract. The last player on the inside linebacker group that I want to talk about now is Tyler Murray. As a former undrafted free agent, Murray spent most of his time on the practice squad in 2023. He's yet to make an NFL debut, but he still remains to be a player with some potential. Due to the lack of reports on him specifically, I can only assume he hasn't had too much production or hasn't really shown too much in practice. So don't be surprised if he doesn't end up making the 53-man roster, but of course, preseason will be especially telling. Alright, so moving on from inside linebackers, we're going to move on to the outside linebackers. Of course, none other than TJ Watt we have, coming off one of the best seasons of his entire career, and if there's anything we know about him, it's that he's probably only going to be even more motivated than ever to prove he's the best defensive player on the planet. Last year, he obviously got snubbed of the Defensive Player of the Year award. Let's see. You know what? Think about this. The last time he got snubbed, he tied the single-season sack record held by Michael Strahan at 22.5 sacks. So you can book it right now. Clip this, save this, do whatever you want. TJ Watt is going to break the sack record this year with 24 sacks and win Defensive Player of the Year. I could go on and on about Myles Garrett and all that, but look, I'll save that for another video. I actually have some stuff planned, especially as it regards to PFF. I'm doing a lot of academic research, and I'm going to be exposing PFF academically because there is so much that is flawed there and so much bias that goes on in there. But I'll save that for another time. There isn't too much to talk about TJ that hasn't been said about 100 times already. So instead, I'll focus on the next linebacker in the group, Alex Highsmith. And at the moment, he's dealing with a groin injury, and he actually won't be playing against the Texans this Friday. But either way, he's proven that he and TJ are one of the best pass rushing duos in the entire league, if not the best. He's coming off a slight down year compared to his 2022 season at least, but honestly, if you look at the way he impacted the games in terms of almost gotchas and pressures and pass rush win rate, using that same criteria, he should have won the Defensive Player of the Year over Myles Garrett. If the NFL really wants to use that excuse for why Garrett won, then Highsmith probably should have won it instead. On the other hand, I look forward to the forced fumbles and turnovers that he was consistently causing last year. If there's anyone who knows how to wreck a game, it's Alex Highsmith. He's forced several forced fumbles last year, and he even had that pick 6 against the Cleveland Browns in Week 2 on the very first play of the game. Next up is Nick Herbig, who recorded 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and he didn't even play 200 total snaps last year. He's been making the most of his limited time on the field, and I expect him to get even better, see even more playing time this year, and he's going to be giving TJ and Highsmith some rest, probably on some of those early downs, so they can dominate when it matters the most on those weighty downs, 3rd, 4th down. In training camp, Herbig specifically has been consistently finding his way into the backfield and is going to be a significant contributor to our pass rush game as a rotational player this regular season. The next few players further down the depth chart are all battling for a spot at the 4th edge position. We have Jeremiah Moon, Jacoby Windman, Kyron Johnson, Julius Welshoff, and Marcus Golden. Out of this group, I've really only heard news about Julius Welshoff, so he might be the one of the group that has been making the most splash during camp. And of course, there's still Marcus Golden, who recently re-signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He won't be available for the first preseason game, if I'm not mistaken. I have to double check on that, but I would expect to see him in the next game against the Buffalo Bills if he's not. Out of these guys, I really think Marcus Golden is going to be the one who's going to make a real impact based on his familiarity with our system and his playmaking ability from the previous season that we can use as a measuring tool for what we might come to expect from him in this season. The last position group is full of new faces further down the depth chart with the starting defensive line. Starting at the defensive end position, we have Ogunjobi, Dean Lowry, Logan Lee, Jacob Slade,
on the right side. And then we have Cam Hayward, Marvin Leal, Isaiah Loudermilk, and Wellington Prevalon on the left side. Now, Cam is allowing a lot of younger guys to take reps, and since he's a proven veteran, we don't really need to see him too much in training camp anyway. He already knows the deal. He's going to be fine. But this season, he's going to be looking to prove himself worthy of a large contract extension that he's been talking about, because he believes that he's going to be able to earn it. And I can guarantee you right now, he won't be playing for the Cleveland Browns, none of that nonsense. And Umar Khan himself is very confident that Cam won't be leaving Pittsburgh next year. This is coming from his direct statements. His injury kind of stifled his playing a little bit last year, and I promise you he's going to have far greater production than last year, even if the national media continues to throw jabs at him. Next up, we have Ogunjobi. He has his ups and downs, but overall he's been decent. I mean, let's see, he's been consistently stuffing the run. Sometimes he gets pushed around with ease, that's for sure, and his older age probably isn't going to do him any favors. So we'll just have to watch and see if he continues to decline or if he can get back to a better level. On the other hand, we do have younger guys coming in like Logan Lee and Dean Lowry, who have been showing some decent progression throughout camp. And they will both have a lot of playing time in the first preseason game, especially since Cam Hayward will not be playing. Then there is the issue of Isaiah Loudermilk, who has yet to prove himself in any real capacity. We haven't really seen him stand out at any point in his career, and I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't make the 53-man roster in favor of guys like Dean Lowry, who's a 9-year veteran, DeMarvin Leal, and 6th-round draft pick Logan Lee, who has great size and athleticism for a 3-4 defense. This could very well be his last chance to earn a spot on the roster. Meanwhile, DeMarvin Leal has been steadily improving, but how much he has improved is yet to be answered. I think he has a solid chance to be the replacement for Cam one day, but his progression is something that he's going to have to keep in mind. He has shown flashes at times, but he really needs to put out more consistency. As Mike Tomlin says, routine plays routinely. Lastly, there's Jacob Slade and Wellington Prevalon, or Prevalon, I'm not quite sure how you pronounce that name. But both of those guys are some developmental prospects that haven't really made too many headlines or reports from Steelers media. So they're going to have to show out in preseason if they want to have a shot of making the 53-man roster and maybe even the practice squad. Now, the last section of the defensive line to discuss is the nose tackle position. The depth for this position starts with Keanu Benton and works its way down to Montravius Adams and Braden Fehoko, according to that latest depth chart that came out for the Steelers against the Texans. Now drafted in the second round in 2022, Keanu Benton brings a lot of promise and potential to the Steelers. Standing at 6'4" and 315 pounds, he's a force in the middle of the line. Benton has having a great camp so far, showing great ability to stuff the run and push the pocket. His competition for the starting job between him and Montravius Adams is going to be very real and very intense throughout the rest of this offseason. Montravius Adams has certainly had his moments, but his ineffectiveness in the pass rushing and inconsistency in run stuffing has been noticeable by both fans and coaches. Keanu Benton is a very hungry player, and he's going to be fighting tooth and nail for that starting role. Then, like I said before, we have Braden Fehoko. And despite not seeing him in actually any games in 2023, he still has 19 games of experience in the NFL with the Chargers. He's known for being a pure nose tackle and has been having a decent training camp himself. Notably, he's been using his size and strength to disrupt the offensive line. However, his outlook for the starting role in particular doesn't seem as great as it does for someone like Montravius Adams or Keanu Benton. His days in Pittsburgh could be limited if the coaches aren't able to find a way for him to contribute on the field, especially since he doesn't offer much value on the special teams. Alright, now we're at the end of the video. We've tackled every single positional group on the defense. So, I'm going to break down the most improved position group on the defense this season and the most improved player during training camp. So, for the most improved position on the Steelers defense, I'm going with inside linebacker. it was already pretty solid last year, but injuries completely wrecked its way through the entire depth chart at that position. We have taken a solid group and turned it into a great one very quickly. This year, we added one of the best linebackers in the nation in Patrick Queen and drafted the best linebacker in college, who was only passed on because of his injury concerns. With returning starters like Elandon Roberts and Cole Holcomb, this group was thicker than molasses on the depth chart. Although Holcomb won't be able to play until probably around mid-season, early reports about his injury do indicate that he's not going to be even available for week 1, which is probably why that you saw that restructuring of his contract. Now, this group is absolutely loaded with talent from top to bottom, so no matter what position we find ourselves in with injuries this year, we can rest assured that the players in the inside linebacker group are going to hold down the defense. This is going to also allow players like Minkah Fitzpatrick to do his thing in the backfield where he should be. All right, now for the most improved player through the training camp. Defensive side of the ball, I'm going to go with Beanie Bishop Jr. Again, I cannot testify enough that Beanie Bishop has translated his college skills into the NFL very well so far. That interception against Fields in 11-on-11s was a play of intellect and anticipation. His ball skills and aggressive play have turned heads at every single practice so far. I really did underestimate him, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing him ball out in the preseason as well. All right, there it is. That is the complete breakdown of the 2024 Steelers defense, especially out throughout training camp. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please remember to leave a like and subscribe for more Steelers content. Hope you guys have a terrible day.